Daniel Harper grew up in a modest neighborhood on the edge of a Midwestern town where people waved at each other from their driveways and believed hard work was the answer to most problems. His parents didn't have much, but they taught him something far more valuable than money: responsibility. From a young age, Daniel learned how to fix things. Broken doors, loose boards, cracked steps, he repaired them all. By the time he finished high school, he knew he didn't want an easy life. He wanted a meaningful one. He started working construction, waking up before sunrise and coming home with dust on his clothes and pride in his chest. Over time, he saved every extra dollar. He studied contracts at night, learned how businesses worked, and slowly built connections. When he finally opened his own small construction company, it wasn't luck, it was years of quiet effort. Success didn't come overnight, but it came honestly. By his early 30s, Daniel owned a solid home, had steady contracts, and was known in town as someone you could trust. That's when he met Melissa at a local community event. She was bright, confident, and drawn to Daniel's calm strength. He didn't brag or show off, and that made him different. They spent long evenings talking about dreams, future plans, and the kind of family they wanted. Daniel made it clear that life wouldn't always be easy. Melissa laughed and said she was ready for anything. Daniel believed her. Their wedding was simple and beautiful. Friends and family filled the room, and Daniel felt something rare: peace. When their son Ethan was born a year later, Daniel thought life couldn't get any better. He worked even harder, not for himself, but for the family he loved. For a long time, life rewarded that effort. Vacations were modest but joyful. Birthdays were celebrated around the kitchen table. Ethan grew up seeing his father leave early and return late, always tired but always present. Daniel read bedtime stories, taught him how to ride a bike, and showed him how to treat people with respect. But life has a way of testing promises. The first sign of trouble came when a major client delayed payment. Daniel covered the costs himself, confident it would be resolved. Then another project fell through. Material prices rose. The economy slowed. Daniel took loans to keep workers paid, believing it was the right thing to do. Stress entered the house quietly. Melissa began to worry. At first, it was just questions. Then frustration. Then disappointment. The laughter that once filled the home faded into long silences. Daniel tried to reassure her, explaining that storms pass if you keep moving forward. But Melissa grew tired. She missed comfort. She missed ease. She began comparing their life to others, neighbors who seemed untouched by struggle. Daniel noticed the distance but stayed focused on fixing what he could. Months turned into years. Daniel sold his truck. Then the house. They moved into a smaller place. Ethan noticed the change but never complained. Daniel told him that strong families adapt. Melissa didn't see it the same way. One night, after another argument about money and stress, Melissa admitted she was unhappy. She said she felt trapped in a life she didn't recognize. Daniel asked her to stay, not for money, not for pride, but for the family they built. She chose to leave. She took Ethan, believing stability mattered more than endurance. Soon after, she married another man who offered comfort and security. Daniel signed the papers quietly, his heart heavier than anything he had ever carried. The hardest part wasn't losing wealth. It was losing daily moments with his son. Daniel lived in a small apartment and worked wherever he could. Some nights he sat alone, replaying every decision he had made, wondering where he went wrong. But every time he saw Ethan, he stood tall. He never spoke badly of Melissa. He only focused on being present. He taught Ethan lessons no money could buy. He taught him patience when things didn't go his way, discipline when he wanted to quit, faith and effort even when results were slow. Ethan learned to admire his father not for what he had, but for how he carried himself. Years passed. Quietly, Daniel rebuilt his life again, brick by brick. He learned from past mistakes. He invested smarter. He partnered wisely. This time, he didn't chase growth, he earned it. By the time Ethan was grown, Daniel was successful again. But this success felt different. It wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. It was steady and grounded. Meanwhile, Melissa's life changed. The man she married lost his footing. Financial pressure returned. Arguments filled their home. The comfort she ran toward disappeared. She began to see Daniel differently, not as the man who failed, but as the man who endured. She reached out. She apologized. She spoke of regret and wished for another chance. Daniel listened with calm understanding. But the man she left was gone. In his place stood someone who had learned the value of loyalty and time. He told her gently that some lessons arrived too late. Ethan, now a young man, chose to stand beside his father. He understood who stayed through struggle and who left when life demanded patience. Daniel didn't celebrate Melissa's regret. He simply moved forward. In the end, the story wasn't about wealth lost or regained. It was about commitment, about staying when life is uncomfortable, about raising a son with integrity, and about a man who lost everything, rebuilt himself, and proved that true success isn't measured by money, but by character.